Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Chloe Humphries, and today I'm excited to share a journey of personal and professional transformation titled Bridging Generations, Purpose, Growth, and Lifelong Development. As a 43-year-old educator, wife, and mother, I've spent much of my life focusing on the growth of others. However, through this project and this course, I realized that my own development and that of those I love is a continuous process through life that requires intentionality, reflection, and a solid understanding of developmental theory. So today we will address two significant life challenges. I focused on self-doubt in middle adulthood and social isolation in late adulthood. These are not just personal hurdles. A lot of families are dealing with this right now. They are universal crises in human development. For many of us, the weight of professional expectations could lead to a quiet internal struggle with confidence. Simultaneously, our aging loved ones often face a sense of despair as physical limitations lead to loneliness. By exploring these challenges through a developmental lens, not only through this project, but through this course, and today, I hope to provide you with insights and tools that are relatable and actionable for your own lives. I want to start with my OD project, and the focus was actually my mother, who is in late adulthood. And my mother is 66 years old, and she is a walking miracle. She was diagnosed with spina bifida when she was born. She was not supposed to live past the age of 20, let alone have children. She had three healthy children, and who is a survivor. She previously relied on crutches my whole entire life, but for probably the past 8 to 10 years, she requires a motorized scooter. The challenge that she faced is she's been coping with the loss of her parents, back to back, my grandparents, and physical independence. She was always very active, worked full time, would go out and socialize with her friends. But ever since the loss of my grandparents and her having the challenge of um, having to use a motorized scooter, she has developed a fear of being a burden, and it has really driven her into reclusive behavior and social isolation. It's been really heartbreaking to watch this strong woman um, move from a place of being socially active and happy into more of a reclusive, sad, and lonely life. Okay, and then my SD project, I focused on myself, of course, in middle adulthood. And the subject is me. I'm an educator, wife, mother, and I love to learn. I consider myself a lifelong learner. So, my own journey, my challenge is having a habit of professional self-doubt despite consistent external validation. I consistently receive positive feedback from my administrators on my teaching and my leadership, and I have high personal expectations, and it's masked by an inability to internalize success. The evidence I put on the screen, I've been an instructional lead and leadership for my grade level for language arts. I was selected for GCPS's Teachers as Leaders program last year. I'm a trusted educator for colleagues and administrators' children. So from the outside, everything is beautiful. I'm doing a great job, but I still struggle with that internal doubt. My goal was to develop a healthier view of professional influence and step confidently into my leadership goals. Okay, so now I'm going to link and connect this to the course content. I relied heavily on Eric Erickson's psychosocial theory. Um, in the green section on the bottom of the chart, I'm in the stage of generativity versus stagnation, where my primary task is contributing to future generations as a teacher and as a mother. So I'm mentoring versus feeling ineffective. Okay, I have self-doubt, preventing confident leadership and full professional contribution. Okay, and then on the top of the chart is my mother. She is in late adulthood, and I relied heavily on the ego, integrity versus despair. She's evaluating life for fulfillment and meaning versus feeling regret and dissatisfaction. And her physical disabilities are limiting her valued activities, contributing to despair. Let's see. I also applied the social emotional selectivity theory for my mom, which says that people perceive time as more limited at her age. So I prioritize emotionally meaningful relationships. Okay, so but according to Lally and Valentine French, older adults prioritize those relationships because they think they're running out of time in their lives. So they have limited time and they're really wanting those relationships. So they have that shrinking horizon, that time perception. The application, I decided to do different things to help my mom in this situation. And the application, I put quick fixes like brief holiday visits are insufficient. So I decided to move from superficial interactions to intentional, predictable emotional connection to combat isolation and build ego integrity. Okay. Additionally, from Piaget's perspective, I recognize that I remain in the formal operational stage. I'm using abstract reasoning and critical thinking to solve these complex personal and professional problems. Um, And the key insight is development does not stop. We can use advanced cognitive tools to solve our own psychosocial crises. So it's pretty cool to see both of them connect. So um, the the theory that I dealt with in my life and that middle part of my life to my mom's age group. So looking at Piaget and Erikson and seeing how there's lifelong cognitive growth and how they work together. Hey, so for my mom, the intervention, I really wanted to reconnect with her. Before I would call her occasionally, do check-ins. We like to chat like on Facebook Messenger. She enjoys that. And we would see each other on holidays and then, at my daughter's events. But really, there wasn't intentional connecting with her, and she was feeling like a burden. So, what I decided to do with the help of my siblings, over a 4 week period, I did myself predictable check ins. So, she knew when it was going to happen. She'd have something to look forward to. So, I did 3 scheduled phone calls weekly, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on time for consistent emotional support. Of course, my daughters would jump in and also chit chat with her. I integrated my siblings and my brother-in-law and my husband for weekly Sunday family lunches or dinners, depending on our time. Um, I loved that my siblings bought into this because they had been worried too. And we had shared conversations with my mom, and all of us contributed, and she just loved it. And then I also committed to public engagement. So that meant taking her out with the help of my brother, getting her scooter in the car, her mobile wheelchair, weekly one on one outings. It could be grocery shopping, lunch, coffee to safely increase her social footprint out of the house since she really enjoyed previously going out and having that social interaction. So I was so happy. The result after those 4 weeks, or even before 4 weeks, is she had an increased mood, increased happiness, willingness to participate, and a renewed sense of security and love. It was amazing. Okay, and then for me, my goodness, my process of dealing and reframing my self-doubt. So here I like this image of the confidence loop. So some things I was able to work on during the summer, because obviously we aren't in school, but I still utilized some things this summer that would help me be prepared to go back to school. So I started keeping a journal, and I would try to do it, well, I would do it at least once a week, if not more. So I really took the time to document my evidence, to put it down on paper, recording specific feedback and leadership successes in one part of my journal that I dedicated to my evidence, which that's something I can keep up with during the school year. I also started writing affirmations, so translate any recorded evidence into concrete evidence-based affirmations. So I would write those in my journals on a page that I can refer back to and add to during the school year. I vocalized accomplishments. Oh my goodness, I've always struggled with sharing my accomplishments with my family. Because first of all, I don't really like to talk about myself, but also I don't want the attention. But that is also something that I need to push through. So I started vocalizing my accomplishments this summer, stuff I'm working on in my specialist degree. So I'm practice speaking accolades out loud to family. And once we're back in school, peers actively fighting the urge to minimize them. I always try to minimize, so I'm really pushing through that. And then as I receive feedback once we get back to school, I'm going to accept positive praise from administrators and peers without immediate dismissal. Instead of saying, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal, saying thank you, I appreciate that, and moving on. So this is my confidence loop I've been working on this summer and plan to continue once the school year starts. Okay. Um, I also added this chart because I really, again, like looking at how both insights intersect and how, like my title says, bridging generations, purpose, growth, and lifelong development. Um, Even though we have these separate time periods in our lives, they all build and they all intersect together beautifully. So development never ends. So on the right-hand side, you see middle adulthood. That's me. I needed to trust my worth to my profession. And then my mom on the opposite side, on the left-hand side, she's needing to trust her worth to her family. So in the middle, it says growth requires discomfort and intentional effort at every age. Connection is the ultimate antidote to both isolation and self-doubt. I love that. Okay, so here's a quick quote, the reality of the process. This was tough for me. This was tough for my mom. It's not something that happened overnight, and it's a work in process. We can't just stop all the wonderful things we've done. It says changing long-standing habits of self-doubt is a process, not a sudden destination. Mindsets do not change overnight. Those habits do not change. True confidence is not the absence of uncertainty. It is learning to trust your foundational knowledge and extending yourself grace along the way, giving ourselves grace. So here's a practical toolkit if you're my age and your parents are aging themselves and maybe dealing with some things like isolation or feeling like they're a burden or they don't want to bother their adult children. So here's some toolkits that you can use to help your parents. Okay, so establish predictability. Set specific, reliable days and times for contact. Random check-ins lack the emotional security of a scheduled routine. Okay, the second tip I have is integrate into routines. Make connection a normal part of the weekly family rhythm. Okay, Sunday dinners. Okay, a Saturday outing. Ensuring they feel included, not that you're just accommodating them. And then expand the horizon. Once family trust is established, gently bridge them to wider community groups and volunteer opportunities matched to their interests. So that's my next step with my mom. I'm going to try to find her some things she can do outside the home during the week, some volunteer opportunities for that social interaction to bridge her out a little bit more. Okay, and then for me, combating professional doubt. I know that there are teachers that are listening to this video right now that struggle with this doubt. Okay, maybe comparison, maybe that imposter syndrome where you feel like you may not match up to your colleagues. Okay, keep an evidence journal. Treat your successes like data. Okay, teachers, we love data or we hate it, right? So write down positive feedback immediately to prevent your brain from dismissing it. Okay, catch the minimization. Okay, I'm preaching to myself. Identify, identify if somebody's saying something to me, oh, it was nothing, replace it with a simple, confident thank you. And then speak it out loud. Practice verbalizing your accomplishment to safe people, your spouse, close friends, to normalize owning your experience. Okay, so as I'm returning to the classroom as a third grade teacher, my destination in just a couple weeks is Sugar Hill Elementary. And then my focus is going to be on my weekly ELA CLT meetings as I facilitate and lead those meetings. My mindset, returning not as a perfect form leader without any doubts, but as a reflective, patient, and equipped lifelong leader or learner. And my takeaway, continual adult growth means accepting new leadership opportunities and celebrating positive feedback without hesitation. Okay, so I'm a work in progress. Okay, so the next ripple is yours. Here's your call to action. What is one intentional connection you can make this week? Okay, for yourself, write down one piece of concrete evidence of your professional worth, something you did last year that was a big deal to yourself or to your administrators or to your colleagues. And then for another, schedule a predictable, dedicated phone call with someone you love. It can be with a parent, a sibling, a neighbor, a friend. Okay, so I really appreciate your time. I hope you learned something from my video, and thank you for joining me on this journey.